I'm Zonile Ngubeni and you're watching Joburg Today.
Hello everyone and welcome to another exciting edition of Joburg Today. I'm your host, Leroy Viaggi. Navigating Colonial Disentanglement is a Pan-African perspective exhibition of the 1950s and 60s that offers the audience a chance to rethink political and historical narratives in Africa and the United States through the lens of an African-born photojournalist, Priya Ramraka.
This exhibition came about from an exploration into family history and a documentary film and a collaboration with my co-curator Erin Haney to bring the work of Priya Ramraka to a larger audience. So Priya was my father's cousin. I never met him. He was killed many years before I was born. He was killed in 1968. I was born in 1980. However, I heard about him growing up all the time. He was someone who was very well respected in our family, but we always heard about his death. We didn't know that much about his life, other than a few Life magazines in which his pictures were featured. But I always wanted to tell a larger story beyond just his death. I mean, it felt like the story started with a understanding and appreciation of how he died and how he died young, but I wanted to tell the story of the life that preceded that moment. So I tracked down a lot of journalists who knew him and interviewed them, but still struggled with the idea of where his photographs were. And I made a documentary film about him using a few photographs that we had in family archives and that some of his family had. But the biggest part of his work was found a few years after that film was made in 2008, kind of buried under piles of trash in a basement in Nairobi in some family archives and with other friends that Priya had in Europe and the US. So he was born here, and he was born into a colonial society that was separated by a very clear color bar, where Indians could own businesses, but they couldn't own land. Africans could not own land or businesses. And of course, the British colonial population owned the best farmland, basically. So Priya would have grown up in that environment and seen these influences on his life, and I think developed a very political stance at that point, and that led to him choosing photojournalism as a career.
In terms of looking back, it's very, very difficult for maybe younger people to understand how critical photojournalists were in the 50s and the 60s, and really all the time that we have been, you and I have been growing up. The fact that the images really can pull in and tell a story of a place that you may not think that you even have a connection to or that you shouldn't care about. Images like Priya's, like the work of any great photographer, absolutely draw you in. There's the human element, there's the dramatic story, there is the larger context that just, it makes you wonder about it. And the extraordinary thing about Priya too, and it's not true for every photojournalist who was working in that time, was to be able to shape and see the humanity of the people that he was portraying. The struggle is definitely continuing, right? We have it here in Kenya, we have it in South Africa, we have it in the United States, we have Black Lives Matter, we have people getting in trouble for kneeling at a football game, right? We're trying to bring attention, and when I say we, I mean it as a human community of people who understand that racism, that that Islamophobia, all the things that are still plaguing us today are things that have happened in the past, and we can learn from and sort of understand that this is not something that we can easily overcome. And colonialism is one of those things that we may use different terms today, but the concerns are still the same. We are wondering and we're hoping and we're striving for a citizenry where we can be equal and we can see ourselves as a human community that still has a ways to go.
My name is Gareth Cliff and you're watching Joburg Today.
As always, we love to hear from you, so be a part of the conversation. Like the Facebook page, joburgtoday.tv, and follow the real trend in Joburg on our Twitter account at Joburg Today. Well, that's it for today's show, but if you want to know more about what's happening in and around Johannesburg, you need to check out our playlist. From me and the guys behind the scenes, till next time.